Fast falls the eventide, the darkness deepens. Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. Swift to its close, ebbs out life's little day. Earth's joys grow dim, its glories pass away. Change and decay in all around I see. Oh, thou who changest not, abide with me. I need thy presence every passing hour. What but thy grace can foil the tempter's power? Who like thyself, my guide and stay can be? Through cloud and sunshine, Lord, abide with me. I fear no foe, with thee at hand to bless. Ills have no weight, and tears no bitterness. Where is death's sting? Where grave thy victory? I triumph still if thou abide with me. Hold thou thy cross before my closing eyes. Shine through the gloom and point me to the skies. Heaven's morning breaks and earth's faint shadows flee. In a life in death, the Lord abide with me.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Happy Sabbath, and we're excited that everybody's here. We're going to sing a few songs together. It's a very, very special day because it is the Sabbath and we can fellowship together and worship God. And I especially love love the opportunities when I get to sing with Stephanie. And I don't want to get all cheesy, sappy, and all that good stuff, but I've been singing with her for over 35 years, and I remember our first date was very musical, and anyway, and I especially also love singing Christian songs, singing to God, and I can hear that my mic's cutting in and out, and I'm not sure why that is, but I actually changed the batteries last night, so I'm going to set this up here, and hopefully that makes it better. Nope. Technology is a wonderful thing that we have now. Great technology, but if it doesn't work well, we're left a little befuddled. But let's sing together. The songs we're going to sing, two of them I know all of you should know, and the last one hopefully you know well enough. And we're not going to say much in between. We're just going to sing, and then Randy's going to have prayer for us, and really looking forward to a very special message today as well.
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot thou hast taught me to say, it is well, it is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. Though Satan should buffet, though trials should come, let this blessed assurance control that Christ has regarded my helpless estate, and hath shed his own blood for my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. My sin, oh, the bliss of this glorious thought. My sin, not in part, but the whole, is nailed to the cross, and I bear it no more. Bless the Lord, mansions of glory and endless delight. I'll ever adore thee in heaven so bright. I'll sing with the glittering crown on my brow. If ever I love thee, my Jesus, 'tis now. Holiness, holiness is what I long for. Holiness is what I need. Holiness, holiness is what you want from me. Holiness, holiness is what I long for. Holiness is what I need. Holiness, holiness is what you want from me. It's what you want from me. Take my heart and form it. Take my mind, transform it. Take my will, conform it to yours, oh Lord. Faithfulness, faithfulness is what I long for. Faithfulness is what I need. Faithfulness, faithfulness is what you want from me. It's what you want from me. Take my heart and form it. Take my mind, transform it. Take my will, conform it to yours, oh Lord. Righteousness, righteousness is what I long for. Righteousness is what I need. Righteousness, righteousness is what you want from me. It's what you want from me. Take my heart and form it. Take my mind, transform it. Take my will, conform it to yours, oh Lord. To yours, oh Lord. To yours, oh Lord.
Welcome, everybody. Isn't it great to belong to God's family? Some of our family is not with us today. Some of our family lives kind of far away. Some of us have come from away to be a part of the family today. The great thing is we're all part of God's family, and that's the bottom line, right? So let's bow our heads. And thank you, dear Heavenly Father, for bringing us all together today. Thank you for this special time that we can be here in worshiping you. We look forward to the day when we can be gathered around your throne and we can sing praises in person, face to face with you. And I just pray that you'll give us part of that experience today as we worship, as we praise you, and as we lift our hearts and minds to what you have in store for us today. Thank you for the day. Thank you for this time. Pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, good morning. So I know there's some of you out here that like this weather. Who's it again that likes cold weather? Who's the weird ones? We got one. Okay, see, only one person. I see you back there. And I don't get it. I just do not get this cold weather thing. Well, you're in luck because this next weekend I think it's supposed to be like 13 degrees or something, like a low of 6 or something crazy. Forget that. So Pastor Rick called me last week, and he was like, hey, you want to talk about your family, kind of like, where you been, how you got here type thing. And he's like, no pressure. You don't have to do if you don't want to. And I'm thinking to myself, if I tell a pastor no, that's kind of like God's right-hand man. It's like telling God no. And I'm like, okay, Pastor Rick, I got you. I'm going to do it, okay? I have to, right? So no, I was like, sure, I'll say something, and after I get done, maybe he'll have me do it again sometime, maybe not, who knows? We'll see how it kind of goes after this, and then Hannah's gonna say something. But anyway, this is our family, and it's myself, Serenity, Emerald, and Noah. Serenity's 5, Emmy's 3, and Noah's 1. He's right here eating a candy cane. He is something else, let me tell you. Anyway, how it kind of all started. Where's this clicker thingy work? I have no idea. It's on? It's on? It's technology. Yeah, I'm not a technology person. Does it? Oh. All right. So how we kind of started off was first, it was summer of 2012, and worked at Camp Heritage. And that's when I met Chase. He was working waterfront. I was the maintenance guy, and I took him down to the waterfront every now and again, in the maintenance. Oh, never mind. It's not about you, Chase. Hannah, so she was a camp counselor, and we met there. And I knew at the time that I was going to join the Air Force. And I had this crazy idea, and I was like, hey, I kind of like you. You're kind of cute. And I guess she thought the same thing about me. I'm not sure. I got a good deal. I don't know about her looking. So, that's right, bud. So we kind of kicked it off, and I ended up joining and going to boot camp in San Antonio. Anybody here prior military went to boot camp? Anybody? Yeah? Okay, all right. So you know what it's like. It's all smiles and giggles, right? You get to wear like the MCI hat and everything, right? Yeah, it's a good time. You can talk back to them, all that stuff. So, no, I went there, and I was like in a good mood, right? Because I was, I'm glad I made it through MEPS, and I got to boot camp, smile on my face. And the MCI was like, hey, what's your name? And I said, sir, trainee Eastland reports as ordered. My name is trainee Eastland, because you're always a trainee. You're like lower than dirt. That's it. And then call you a lot of things, including dirt. And he's like, what you smiling about? I said, well, I'm having a good day. I'm happy to be here, right? And apparently he didn't like that answer. He was like, you know what? We have 8.5 weeks together. He's like, I'm going to change your attitude. So I guess my attitude changed. So I'm here. So my first duty station was Guam. And I actually talked Hannah into coming over. And we actually got married on a sailboat in Guam. And that was a good time. I was a firefighter, active duty. Did that for a bit. And then I decided afterwards, some things happened. I got hurt. And some things happened. I ended up going, getting out and going guard. I'm actually still in the guard now. I've been in a total of 11 years military so far. Mostly guard so far, mostly part-time. About 4 years of active. And she joined. So, I mean, after all the horror stories I told her, and I was like, oh, yeah, you know, boot camp, great time, yada, yada, yada. She's like, oh, I guess I'm going to join too. So she went active, and we went to Monterey, California, Monterey Bay. And that was a pretty neat experience. Highway 1, if you ever go to Monterey, Highway 1's gorgeous. It's a beautiful ride down. I had my motorcycle with me. We went down there. We didn't have any kids, so we could we were living the beach life because you're right there. I mean, you could throw a rock and hit the water. So we were there for like a year. Then we went to San Angelo, Texas, which is nothing. There's nothing out there. It's just a vast amount of nothingness. I don't know why anybody would want to live in West Texas, but there's some people out there, great people out there. There's just nothing. So we went there for a bit, 6 months or so, and we got to our first official duty station at Fort Meade. And Hannah she worked for the NSA out there at Fort Meade, and we had 2 kids, Emerald and Serenity being the oldest, at Walter Reed Medical Center. I think you know about Walter Reed. So it's the president's hospital. So anytime the president gets sick or anything, he goes to Walter Reed Medical Center. That's where we had them. So there's hope. They could be politicians, maybe. No, don't be a politician. You know, who knows? Make some change. So far it's working out for you. So from there, we got orders, special orders to England, and that's where we were at before we came here. So we were in Huntington, England, and that was a neat experience. We kind of went during the whole COVID thing, unfortunately. So everything was like closed down, locked up, didn't let you travel very much. But we had Noah, so he's kind of like part British. Not really. But because he was born on a military base. So anytime you're born on a military base, it's you're an American. I mean, you don't get like you don't get dual citizenship, nothing like that. So sorry, buddy, you're not unique. So from there, Hannah got this wild idea. It was like, hey, we could either stay in, or we could do something, make money, or make money, maybe make some money. But instead, she's like, hey, I want to go be a college student again with 3 kids and be broke. And broke, people. So I was like, all right, yeah, sure, I'm going to be a supportive husband, right? Let's do this. Let's go back to college and do this. So, sure enough, plane flight over here. We bought a house down here in Hallsville. It actually kind of worked out. I mean, we were looking at a few different schools. We really wanted to come to Missouri because that's where we have family and friends at, and Mizzou is close to everybody else. But we had other schools that was possibilities as well for law school. But Mizzou actually called her and offered her a full ride scholarship, academic scholarship. And it was like, shoot, that was it was meant to be. So we were like, okay, well, we're going to do this. So we came all the way back here, bought a house while we were still active duty, because once you change income, they don't really like that too much. So anyways, because it was either buy or rent, right? So we bought a house. She's going to law school. We're halfway through. Not sure what the plans are afterwards, but here we are all these years later. We've been married now for going on 10 years. Wow, 10 years. It's crazy. 10 years. It feels like 10 years. Feels like a year plus 20. So anyway, that's kind of our little story on how that all happened. Hannah's still in the military. She's still doing her. She's a linguist. She still does her job. I have a few different jobs. I did firefighting on active duty, but now I'm a chaplain assistant, and I do HVAC, heating and air. The military. It's great if anybody ever decides. I've been talking to Chase about it. If anybody ever decides to go military, they really pay for your education. They get you all set up. I mean, you're really. It's a good gig, really. I mean, you get all the certificates. So, yeah, I think she's been in 7 years. I've been in 11. So, anyway, that's my spill. So now on to Serenity. Come here. All right. Go ahead. Serenity she's got a memory verse she wants to say.
Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Philippians 4:8.
All right. Is she doing that song thing next? Oh. All right, guys. That was a good memory verse. That's it for me. Thank you. Thank you. Hold your applause.
Hey.
Oh, you need that.
Yeah. Happy Sabbath. I'm not as comfortable of a public speaker as Brandon, so bear with me. Pastor Rick asked if we would just kind of give a little bit of our testimony and what brought us here, and Brandon covered the logistics, and it's up to me to cover the emotions, which is pretty much how our marriage works. So I'm going to just talk about what brought us to Crossroads and a little bit about how I grew up. I think a lot of you probably already know me. I grew up in Moberly, and so a lot of you know me as Hannah Tyler, which was my maiden name, or Tammy's daughter. Most people know my mom. And so I grew up in the church. I grew up about as steeped in Adventism as possible. I went to Adventist church. I went to Adventist church school for elementary. I went to the Moberly Elementary. And then I went to Sunnydale Academy. And then I went to Southern for a year of college before I got married. And so I was raised in the church. And I'm going to explain this concept. It's called the Golden Circle. It's actually a marketing concept, and basically most companies start on the outside and they work their way in when they're marketing a product. So they'll explain what they're selling, how it works, and then they usually stop there and say, you want to buy it. And that's kind of how we speak in normal day-to-day conversation too. If I'm explaining what I do for work, I'll say, I'm a linguist, that's my what. They might say, oh, that's cool, what does that mean? And I go into the how, I translate Russian to English and back. But I don't usually go into the why. It's a little deeper of why I wanted to be a linguist or why I'm in the Air Force. In casual conversation, you don't really get to the why. You just start on the surface. And then one company came in their marketing technique and completely flipped the circle. And they're a pretty well-known tech company. Does anybody have any guesses on who that was? You might have something in your phone. It is Apple. So Apple, for their marketing technique, revolutionized how people sell things, and they started with the why. And it was, maybe a little cheesy, but they're like, we believe in pushing the status quo. We believe in innovation and propelling the world forward. And then they went to the how. We build beautiful machines that are easy to use and different from all the rest of the market. And then the very last thing they say is like, oh, by the way, it's a computer. But people don't really care about the what if you really sell them on the why. And this new model has been taken up by lots of companies, and I was really interested in it. But as I was thinking about how I was raised, I realized that when we're raised in the church, and this may not be true for everybody, but this was certainly my experience, we stick to the kind of standard model in teaching our children about Christ. We start with the what. And the reason for that is most of it is unspoken learning. So I grew up in the church. For me, the what looks like you say Happy Sabbath at the door. You stand up while the organ is playing and the pastor comes out on stage. And then you sit down for announcements. You stand up for the first song. You sit down for the next 3 songs. You kneel for prayer, but don't get up after the prayer. They're going to sing like, holy, 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 Then you get up and sit through the sermon, stand up for the final song, and go home. It was really ingrained from such an early age because it's the same every week. And there was a lot of parts of growing up Adventist that are just cultural. It's not really something you learn through spoken messages. It's not something they teach you. You just kind of look around and see how people are acting and you emulate it. So that's the what. And I went to Sunnydale, so I had an excellent Bible teacher. You probably don't know him. His name is Rick Meyer-Peter. And he taught us about the how. And that was like the 22 fundamental beliefs of the church. And we went through salvation and the story, and all of that started to come together. So I had a pretty good picture of what I believed. and how to act that way, but it never really got to the why. It's a really personal thing of why you decided to be a Christian, why you follow Christ, and it wasn't necessary for me. I was able to just coast through life as an Adventist, living a good Adventist life, doing all the things, without ever really going deep into the why I cared and why I wanted to be that way. And I was able to just kind of coast that way for a long time. And then I had children. We started with Serenity, and we took her to church the way that we were supposed to, but it was kind of a burden. I didn't enjoy it. Getting ready for church every Sabbath and trying to fight her into her little tights as a toddler, and then sitting on a pew and trying to force my kids to sit still while we listened to a sermon that I didn't hear because I was trying to get my kid to sit still. And I started thinking about this Bible verse, and I've heard this verse growing up. You know, everyone knows it, and I've heard it a lot of times as a source of comfort. I've heard it told to mothers who are worried about their children. Don't worry, if you do things right, your kids will turn out okay. Train up your child in the way that he should go, and they will not depart from it. But as a new mom, it started to feel a little more like a warning or a threat. If you do the wrong thing, that's going to stick with them too. And it brought me back to college. I took a developmental psychology class, and some of the statistics and things that they taught us in that class were really mind-blowing. But I was an 18-year-old with no children, so to me, I was like, wow, this is really interesting and cool. Once I had kids, I was like, wow, this is really interesting and terrifying. The first 5 years are so important to a child's life. When you're born, you have all the neurons that you're ever going to have. Your brain is there, but the connections between neurons aren't formed yet. You have the basic ones that, tell you to breathe and all the life functions, but anything to do with development or learning or who you are happens through those connections between neurons. And between the age of 0 and 5, your brain is creating 1 million connections per second. So you're just constantly putting together this and this means that, and that shapes how you view the world for the rest of your life. And the study that they showed us in college was that a behavioral scientist was able to, after a 10-question survey about the first 5 years of your life, with an 86% accuracy, they could determine what type of occupation that you do, what level of education, and what income bracket you're in. So those first 5 years are just super important. But even beyond the 5 years, the things that you learn from probably grade school age are equally important. It's the first 2 years of school that you decide whether or not you like school or not, and that will determine how well you do in school for the rest of your education. I went to Maranatha Adventist Elementary, and I had amazing teachers. Probably the reason I'm in law school is because they established this love for learning really early on. Kayla Booth was the kindergarten through 4th grade teacher, and then Richard Booth did 5 through 8. And when I got up to the upper grades, the 5 through 8, Richard Booth did something pretty, I think, genius, and he would have our entire class memorize stuff. And I don't know, I think it started as useful things. So we would memorize the presidents, and then we would memorize the Gettysburg Address. But I think I'll have to ask him. Either he wanted to see how far he could stretch it, or he genuinely thought that this would be useful. I'm not sure. But we decided to memorize all of the prepositions in the English language. And I was in 5th grade, my sister was in 6th grade, and my brother was in 8th. So we were all in that class during that time. And at Thanksgiving, I brought it up with my brother, and he still knows them. And so then we called my sister in Colorado, and she still knows them. And I'm going to perform this for you guys because it's my only party trick. Aboard, about, above, across, after, against, along, among, around, at, before, behind, below, beneath, beside, besides, between, beyond, by, down, during, for, from, in, inside, into, like, near, of, off, on, onto, over, since, through, to, toward, under, underneath, until, up, upon, with, within, without. That has never come in handy at all. But I think it's a testament to the things that you learn as a child really stick with you all the way through your adult life. I'm not unique in being able to memorize that. My siblings all remember it, and I'm sure if I tracked down some of my classmates, they would know it too, because it was drilled so deeply that it just never goes away. And so I realized that being a parent was such a deep responsibility, and I wanted to make sure that what we were passing on to our children were things that I truly believed. I didn't want to passively show my kids a way of life that I didn't think was necessary, or that I didn't truly feel convicted about. And so that led Brandon and I down this path of discovery. The great thing about Christianity and the Bible is that there's a wealth of knowledge there, and the Bible openly tells you to look for answers, to figure it out for yourself. So we looked up some verses that just really gave me encouragement to keep digging, to look for what I believed, and to really test all my assumptions and all the things that I had known my whole life, but didn't really know why I knew them. So James 1:5 is a good example. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously and without reproach. And then Romans 12:2-3. I think a lot of people focus on that first part, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed. But I really like the second bit, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God. It's okay to question and to ask the hard things and try something different and see how it feels, and let the Spirit lead you there. We're encouraged to use good judgment, to try things out for ourselves and figure it out. So that's what we did. We're still on that journey, but that's kind of where I'm at in my faith, is very intentional, specific searching for what I believe before I accidentally pass that on to my children. And so what we ended up having to do is take the Apple approach and start with the why. Dump everything that we knew out the window, everything that we did instinctually by habit, and turn our religion from a lifestyle, from a culture, into a personal belief. So we were like, why do we want to go to church? Why are we raising our kids Christian? And why is it important to me? And once we established that, we went back into the fundamentals. How do we attain salvation? How do we even get there? And then the what can be taken for granted. That will just naturally follow. Instead of focusing on what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, if you really focus on the why you're doing it, the rest just happens on its own. And that was a revolutionary concept for me, because I just was raised in the church and so much of it was automatic. I didn't know why I was doing what I was doing until I decided to stop myself from doing those and ease back into it. And at this point of writing my testimony down, I had a bit of a crisis of confidence and realized, who cares? Not everybody has children. Many of you had children. Now your babies have babies. And so this testimony might not resonate with you. If you didn't grow up in the church, you didn't have to unlearn the bad behavior there. And by no means do we have it all figured out. We're struggling, as every parent does, to make sure that we're doing the right by our children. But it was about the same time that I stalled on this testimony, and I wasn't sure where I was going with it, that someone sent me this quote, and it just gutted me. It's a quote from someone who is in Alcoholics Anonymous, and they said, "When I'm late to church, people turn around and stare at me with frowns of disapproval. I get the clear message that I'm not as responsible as they are. When I'm late to AA, the meeting comes to a halt. Everyone jumps up to hug and welcome me. They realize that my lateness may be a sign that I almost didn't make it. When I show up, it proves that my desperate need for them won out over my need for alcohol." And I think it really struck me, because I wished that it didn't resonate with me. I wish that I hadn't walked into a church and immediately felt judged or worried about what I was wearing or how I was standing. But I think everyone has experienced that at some point or another. If someone says that they haven't been hurt by somebody else in the church, they're probably not being honest. Because we're humans and we all come in with a complete different set of backgrounds and opinions and personalities. I think that diversity is why churches have the ability to do great things. We can stretch each other and grow and help develop each other, but it also means that there's a great potential for hurt. And I was sitting on this quote for a while, and I was like, man, it's devastating that I resonate with that. And so then I started to look at the relationship between a parent and a child and how that is emulated in the church. And I found this, I think, good comparison between the two. Ephesians 6, 1 through 4. I memorized this first half in like grade school, I'm sure. It's also quoting one of the 10 Commandments. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise that it may be well with you and that you may live long on the earth. And there's a similar commandment to the youth in a church. Likewise, you who are younger, be subject to the elders. Clothe yourself and all of you with humility toward one another, for God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. And I think those are pretty parallel, and it's good advice. But a lot of people don't focus on the companion pieces to that. There's never a relationship where someone is expected to submit without a burden or responsibility being placed on the other. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. They probably didn't let us memorize that part, because I'm sure Dave can attest that 12-year-old me would have tried to use it somehow in an argument. I probably would have tried to like negotiate more minutes on my flip phone or something. But there's a similar piece to the elder-youth relationship in the church. I exhort the elders among you, shepherd the flock of God that is among you, exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but willingly, as God would have you, not for shameful gain, but eagerly, not domineering over those in your charge, but being an example to the flock. That servant leadership is very similar to me on how a parent leads their child. It's through example. It's by what you do. And the young people in the church are looking to their elders, whether they want to or not, and they're learning constantly. Those connections in their brain are being made. How you act and how you treat others tells them what the church is about. It tells them what to expect from the church, and ultimately that makes them choose whether or not they want to stay in it. So I think my point is that we are a church family, and those relationships are super important. And my question for everyone is, what does that mean to you to have a church family? For me, it means coming to church and looking forward to it. And this is probably the first time in my life that, or at least my adult life, that has been true. When we moved to England, it was right at the start of lockdown, and all the churches in England were shut down. So my family got into this routine that we observed Sabbath just as a family. And when Serenity got a little older, she started to ask, like, why do we do things different on Sabbath? Why do we have cinnamon rolls every Sabbath morning? We had to stop that because it was, getting to us. But we had different traditions for Sabbath, and she started to ask why. And my response was always, Sabbath is a special day to spend time with family and God. And that was kind of my mantra. On Sabbaths, we wouldn't look at our phones. We wouldn't talk about what's going on during the week at work, and we would just try to really reconnect and ground ourselves. And it's such an important practice for our family because it gives us the energy and the encouragement to start the week over, especially now that we're in school full time and Brandon is staying at home with 3 monster children all day. It's just really important that we have this day to reestablish what we're about, reconnect with each other, and just ground ourselves. And when we moved back from England, we hadn't established any kind of church in England. We got there during COVID. They were all shut down. But as COVID relaxed, we had already gotten into a little family routine, and we didn't bother looking for more churches while we were there. But when we moved back, we heard about Crossroads, and I think I mostly came because I wanted to hear Kayla sing, because we grew up together, and I've always loved her voice. And then, of course, Pastor Rick is a familiar face. And so we decided to come, and I almost didn't want to start coming back to church because I had grown kind of jealous of my time with my family. I guarded it preciously, and in the past, going to church means waking up early, rushing through breakfast, trying to struggle to get everyone into the car, showing up late, and then leaving and having lost half of our day and this precious day that we spent together. But the minute we walked through the door, I felt like there was something different here. And my children aren't a burden, and I don't have to try to sit them down in a pew. And I just felt like there was love here, and I really latched onto that. And so for me, when I say we are a church family, it goes a little deeper than, the second time you're here, you're ours, that Pastor Rick always touts. For me, it means that I look forward to being here, and the role of this church in my life is to uplift, to bring each other back and reground to God and to family to get through another day, another week, really. And I think that has always been the vision for the church. There's several dozens, actually, when I looked into it, verses about how the church is supposed to treat one another and what our purpose is here. And of course, everyone knows Christ's words, "A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another, even as I have loved you, that you love one another. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love for one another." People know that you're in Christ and that you're genuine by instinct. They feel it. And I felt it when I walked into this church. And then in a letter to a church, it says, "Therefore encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing." I wanted to encourage this church as it's growing. The seats are full almost every week, and they just bought the plot of land, so they're going to be growing and expanding. I really want to encourage this church, whether or not my family will still be here by the time that happens, that this is a church family and not just a congregation. And I wanted to encourage you guys to continue the positive movement that's happened in this church and just really loving each other, uplifting every week. And when you walk in these doors, think, how can I be there for someone else today? Because that's what really makes a difference. It's what makes families like ours want to come to church. And it makes my kid wake up on Sabbath looking forward to being here instead of dreading it or, wishing that they could stay home and play or anything else. So I guess that's all I really had to say. Serenity wanted to sing a song or lead. I think if everyone sang with her, she'd be a little less nervous. She wanted to sing a song.
I had decided to follow Jesus. I had decided to follow Jesus. I had decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back, no turning back. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Though none go with me, still I will follow. No, none go with me, still I will follow. No turning back, no turning back.
Come on, bud. All right, guys, let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for another Sabbath day. Thank you for everything you do in our lives. And I just pray that you be with us each and every day as we go through the rest of the week. Pray in your name, amen.
Revival ember smoldering, breath of God, fan us into flame. We need a fresh wind, the fragrance of heaven. Pour your spirit out, pour your spirit out.
Remember, there is plenty